had such a poor reputation in politics as it is that she wouldn't have been a really great fit for the States, to be honest.
She was there the whole time, so she knew what was going on.
Exactly. And you know what? There's not enough rumors going around about Trump, but the Clinton family has had several issues and run-ins with media and publicity and issues with their families. Trump, I found, had only had these big issues when he became into presidency. Like, people started coming out of the woodworks claiming that he had, sexually assaulted them and been...
Where were they before?
Exactly my point, right? So you know what I mean? It was almost like Hillary Clinton had paid them to come out. And it's like...
Which it could have been.
Yeah, and it was like the ballots.
They had all these protests, and I remember the week after... there was a big protest here in Toronto at the Trump Hotel. I was actually DJing a wedding at the building next door.
Oh, really?
And I couldn't even get in because everything was blocked off.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't get loaded in, loading equipment. It was like an hour before the wedding was going to show up.
Yeah.
And everything was blocked off because of protests.
You're panicking, yeah.
For me, what's the point of a protest, especially in another country? It's not going to do nothing. Well,
and that's the thing. I was looking at a protest that was happening in BC and shaking my head, to be honest, what does Canada have anything to do with it? I'm sure that we're allies. We work very close together as two countries. I get that. But to be honest, is Hillary going to be a better fit? Are you protesting for Hillary or are you just protesting for Trump? I didn't understand what the protest was about. And that's what kind of dumbfounded me. I was like, what?
If they want to protest, why don't they protest against our government?
Right, protest Trump. He's not that great. Or Trudeau.
When her alone, it makes my blood boil. Just even her name makes my blood boil.
Oh, see, this is why you're such a great co-host for the show, because I don't like Kathleen Wynne either. And to be completely honest, I think that she's in politics for the wrong reasons. I think that she's in it to help change, gay and homosexual rights, and that her sole reason for being in politics is that, because the only thing that I've seen change since her being there is things like just bizarre things like the change of the national anthem and that should
have never been done.
Right? I'm sorry, but this may sound a little bit blunt to you, so excuse me if this sounds politically incorrect, but to be honest, I don't think that they should have been taking out, I don't know if Kathleen Wynne had anything to do with this, but they should not be taking out cursive writing and adding in, homosexual relationships into the curriculum and removing something that, now my kids, if it wasn't for me teaching them, they wouldn't know how to sign their signatures. But, they would like to implement these things that are kind of not relevant to talk about. It's more of a personal choice,
Just with her, all her buddies are all the contractors who got all the business through the government. All these government contracts were everyone that she knew.
Well, and I was looking at what they were paid. I'm not sure if you took a look at those people's salaries, but for 2 or 3 days of work, they were getting paid something close to $80,000+ for just these very minor jobs that almost anybody probably could have done, right?
Exactly.
So
and because it's her friend, they got the contract and they got our hardworking money.
Yeah, I don't believe in doing politics like that, to be honest. I actually have one of my friends from middle school. Her mother is a local MPP for Hamilton here. I always refer to her when I think about a good politician because, to be completely honest, she's not rich. She's got money, but she's not, looking to be on private jets and all this extra stuff. So she's not in there to get a $5,000 chair and a free condo out of the government. She's there because she
wants to help the people.
Well, yeah, and she speaks on behalf of children and medically ill children and their rights and stuff like that. She changes things like, stipulations and laws to do with children's aid and, autistic funding and all that stuff, like important things that need to be dealt with. And, she never veers off track on that, and she's very dedicated to it, right? I wish all the politics could be like that.
Everyone was worried, when Trump wins, that the markets are going to crash, it's going to go into, recession.
Yeah.
It's funny because the very next day, everything was up.
Yeah.
All stocks were on a rise.
Yeah. And you know what?
And I just can't wait for when Kevin O'Leary runs for the Prime Minister of Canada. He will win by a landslide, and he will be Canada's version of Donald Trump.
Yep.
And we're going to make this country, the way it should be.
Kevin Leary is the guy who always goes off in the...
He was the guy in the Dragon's Den. He's very wealthy, but he's Canadian. He's just like Trump.
Yes.
Very similar to Trump, but a Canadian version of it. But he's always been, Canada is for Canada, very pro-Canada.
Yes, I actually think I know who you're talking about now. I was a little bit lost there for a second, but now that you were talking a little bit about the Dragon's Den and stuff, I think I know who you're talking about.
He's definitely gonna. I think he'll be the next prime minister.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you know what? It's people like that will actually make a difference. Like, to me, I think that Donald Trump has just taken the social media portion of it and blown it out of proportion. He is more worried about his fame and, you know, jumping into people's wedding photos and going to a Star Wars movie, you know, and you know what I mean? His priorities seem all messed up. Like, he's put more money into other countries and added it into our taxes than done anything for us Canadians, and then upped all of our taxes to cover it, much.
I'm always for, like, helping people when they're in need.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what? Look at your own backyard first.
Exactly. That's my big point.
Like, we got homeless people. We got mentally sick people there on the streets who need help, who needs homes, who needs food, who needs clothing.
Well, and you know what,
but they're helping these people from these other countries.
Well, my kids, you know, like I had an issue with my oldest son over a year ago. He was diagnosed with a rare, well, not rare, but it's a more of a issue when it comes to behavioral problems and stuff like that. It's more of a behavioral disorder, and he was on waiting lists for months. And you know, I went above and beyond and contacted people from you know, the government and tried to get some MPP advocacy and stuff like that. But I mean, it took months to get him the help that he needed.
Why is there a waiting list?
Exactly.
There shouldn't even be a waiting list.
And that's the thing, right? Like,
there should be an empty list. There's always spots, regardless, right away. As soon as you need help, boom, here you go.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, I think as Canadians, you know, our healthcare system's great. I love the fact that it's free. But one of the biggest things...
It's broken.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that my friends from the States always say to me is that, you know, they actually would rather pay for their healthcare to get quick service. Right? And that's sad because, you know what, they pay thousands. A friend of mine is thousands in debt from just a couple months of medical bills from a family member who's sick, right? And like, it's pretty sad that they would rather be thousands in debt and not have to wait the waits that we do, right?
What I think that this country's going to go to, we're going to keep our streamlined universal health care, but I think it's going to be a two-tier.
Yeah.
So the first tier will be what everyone has now, you know, whatever. And the second tier is like the States. You pay and you get service.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that it should be an open choice, and that, you know, it would open up to people who, you know, if they can afford to pay, then go ahead and pay and be first in line. But you know what I mean? Unless you have the money, everybody is first come, first serve, right?
Yeah.
So.
But it doesn't work that way no more. First come, first serve.
Yeah.
They look at who you are first, and then they'll serve you. If you're not, please take a number.
Yeah.
Take a seat, your name will be called.
Yeah. No, it's true. You know what? There was a time where I had a migraine, and I had gone to the hospital because it was so severe, and I was there for probably a good 12 hours just to get a few minor blood tests and, you know, a CT scan and stuff like that, right? Because some of these people walk in and think they're you know, they're dying and there's nothing wrong with them, right? And because it's first come, first serve, or, you know, unless you're severely ill and they need to rush you in front of everyone, it's kind of is first come, first serve, right? So
yeah.
The wait lists are a little ridiculous, but I'm just thankful that healthcare is free because my daughter actually does depend on blood transfusions to live. So we would be in quite a bit of debt right now with her medical bills.
If you were like a tier system and like they were in the States.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you hear about what the statistics are for just the beginning of the year from January 6th for their gun violence in the States?
They're saying that, we don't have a gun problem here, but yeah, there's been so much gun violence within the last week.
Oh my God, since January 6th, they say that there's been over 200 gun-related deaths, 450 gun-related injuries. 8 of those killed were kids and 42 of them were teenagers. They say that on average, 93 people a day die in the States from gun-related injuries.
You know why that's the case? Because they're allowed to hold guns. Yeah.
I think that they should really. One of the other hosts from the Mike Allen show, he was just talking a little bit on social media about you know, the changing of laws for open carrying and stuff. And I really think that that's a good thing that they need to evaluate because, you know what, we do have our fair share of gun issues in Canada, but
it's a fraction of what they have.
Exactly. Like, we're not even close. You know what I mean?
Because even today alone on social media, I saw a posting, like for a petition to sign up for us to be able to have guns.
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
No, I don't agree with it because you know what? It just makes the world an unsafer place for my kids. You know what? I live in a very nice, family-oriented area in Hamilton. To be honest, we're in a nice residential zone, and to be honest, we had a issue pretty much almost across the street from us. Well, it was a little bit further away from across the street, but it was literally somebody had gotten shot in our area, and to be completely honest, my son was playing at the park when it happened, and it was probably the most frightening moment of a mother's life when you hear literally gunshots go off, around you, and it's not one, it's, multiple, close to 5 or 7 shots, and, the first thing I did was grab my coat and my shoes and run out the door, and, I can see my son from the park, but it was still oh my God in my head, right? So you never know. You never know where you are. It could be in front of your own home.
You could be in a multi-million-dollar area, or you could be in the slums, and something can happen at any time.
Well, and that was the thing, like, it was more or less like, wow, oh my gosh, it was kind of an eye-opener because, you know what, I always feel like, if God forbid, I used to hunt when I was a kid, so I'm perfectly, trained to use firearms, but I wouldn't carry one on my waist because you know what, it's not even you have to worry about. What if some crazy walks up and grabs it off of you, or
exactly. I'm trained to use guns. Like I have gun, people I know Peter are gonna get at me now, but I'm a hunter. I go hunting.
Yeah.
So I know how to use guns. I have guns.
Yeah.
But will I carry one? No, I don't need to carry one to protect myself. That's ridiculous.
No, and I think that as people in the States, they should really consider open carrying in public places at least. If they're not going to consider, completely revoking people's licenses to carry unless you're using it for hunting, I don't think that it should be allowed to,
I don't see a point of carrying it unless you're going hunting.
Well, why do you need to carry a gun in a movie theater? Or in a grocery store, or God forbid, some kid's school at their school play. You know what I mean? Like you do not need guns in those areas. Absolutely not. So I just think that maybe they should reevaluate a little bit, and take a closer look at why these problems keep happening. I think that being kind of dumbfounded in the States is a little bizarre to me because the problem is right in front of their faces.
Well, that's why people always say that the States is, the Canada's retarded cousin.
Yeah. Another thing I was looking at online I found kind of bizarre. To be honest, I was just I was blown away by this strange challenge that I kept seeing all over social media. I grew up in the era where this hip hop artist kind of emerged and came out into the world, but it was called the Soulja Boy challenge. Did you see that?
No, I know who Soulja Boy is, but I never heard of Soulja Boy challenge.
Okay, so there was this weird challenge. It was kind of like the ice bucket challenge and the Kylie Jenner lip challenge and all these weird challenges that they do. But it was to the extent, I'm not really fully understanding it, but from what I've grasped out of the concept is that Soulja Boy got arrested or something, and that he had made some sort of comments as to why he was arrested to somebody in jail, and they had made a big joke out of the entire thing, and it turned into the Soulja Boy challenge, which was pretty much a bunch of other hip hop artists making fun of Soulja Boy, and the fact that he said he was in jail for shooting somebody or killing somebody, but he was actually in there for tax fraud.
Oh, nice.
So, long story short, people were making these mock videos of Soulja Boy, telling people that he was in there for this, horrific crime that actually, in fact, he was just...
Really, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was just behind on taxes. So I found that kind of funny, and it's actually turned...
You should be best friends with Chris Brown.
Actually, I was just getting to Chris Brown, because that's funny that you say that, because now, I guess, apparently, rapper Chris Brown is scheduled to box rapper Soulja Boy over an online media feud.
Well, that's funny.
Which is it's a little much. To me, I'm just like, I don't understand how these things kind of conspire into these big feuds over nothing. I mean, I get it. He was making...
It's exposure.
Yeah.
They're bored. They have nothing coming out. So the publicist said, you got to do something to get people talking about you again.
Yeah, no, really, though. I mean, the last time he was kind of famous was when he punched Rihanna in the face, I think, right?
Or maybe she punched him in the face.
One of the two, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something of that extent happened. Somebody abused somebody and it went sour, and now everyone's hating on Chris Brown.
Maybe first he liked it, but then it got too violent, so he said no. And
yeah, it did. It wasn't exactly the abuse he thought he was getting into.
yeah.
That's too funny. But to be honest, I was just like, you know what? Seeing that challenge on